We've been logging into the World Wide Web for 25 years, and what started off as a way to meet demand for automated information sharing between scientists has transformed into the fastest growing communication medium of all time. As a result, the web has shaped our global climate, not only of how we connect with one another, but our interaction with data and information. The web has become an integral part of our personal and professional lives, and we have different relationships with its data, whether we organize it, search for it, or provide access to it. We also use data to interpret and understand the world around us. But more importantly for this discussion, we recognize the web has provided a new context for research data because it has dramatically impacted the way that we produce, preserve, and interact with information. The sheer scale of data produced is immense. For instance, as of October 2020, there are 4.6 billion internet users, which accounts for just under 60% of the world's population. And in 2020 alone, it's estimated that 1.7 megabytes of data was created every second by every person. Over 300 billion emails are sent every day, along with approximately 95 million photos and videos that are shared every day on Instagram. And in the past few minutes I've been talking, approximately 800 web pages have been created. But while the web continues to grow, it's also disappearing, which means we're at risk of losing potentially significant information. Now, shortly after the web was launched publicly, there was a foresight and conscious effort to ensure preservation of born digital data. Starting in 1996, the first large-scale projects to address preservation were initiated, and over the past 25 years, we've seen the development of standard practices, methods of preservation, and an increasing adoption of web archiving mandates among memory institutions around the world. And that's because we collectively recognize the web as an important source for our digital cultural heritage, and as such, is critical for studying our modern historical record. The opportunities to engage with digital content and digital cultural heritage in the form of web archives has two significant implications for researchers. It expands the scope of our study, so we're able to incorporate a wider and more diverse range of voices and perspectives, and can help bring forward the history of marginalized groups. We also experience a difference in scale, so shifting from resource scarcity to abundance. But as we all know, challenges are inevitable when dealing with data, and they occur throughout the web archiving lifecycle, from selection and collection to organization and storage to description and metadata. But here we focus on the unique challenges of access and use. Now, despite the volume of data captured over 2.5 decades, web archives have largely remained inaccessible for a few reasons. Computational access at scale requires an understanding of high-performance computing, as well as a familiarity with command line, and both of which assume advanced technical knowledge that tends to be out of reach for most digital humanities and social science scholars. While collection and preservation efforts have excelled, the development of analytical tools and infrastructure has lagged. We also recognize that scholars consistently face time, resource, and support limitations. And the Archives Unleashed project has been driven by the question of how we can lower barriers to access and use of web archives. And this is a question we return to at every step of the project. For those that are new to our project, Archives Unleashed grew out of a series of datathons held between 2016 and 2017, and they identified the need for better analytical tools, community infrastructure, and accessible web archival interfaces. In 2017, the project was formalized and awarded a grant from the Andrew Mellon Foundation. And our work from 2017 to 2020 has focused on developing tools and platforms with infrastructure capable of assisting in the scalable analysis of web archives. So a bit about our tools and platforms. First, the Archives Unleashed Toolkit is an open source platform for analyzing web archives, and it's built on Apache Spark to provide powerful tools for analytics and data processing. The toolkit provides our core code and applies modern big data analytics infrastructure to scholarly analysis of web archives. It is launched from terminal, and our documentation provides dozens of pre-built scripts that users can modify and use to explore their web archive collections and extract specific information. So with the toolkit, researchers can perform a variety of analysis, including collection analytics, as well as text and network analysis. Our second major outcome from our project has been deploying the Archives Unleashed cloud. And the cloud uses the toolkit's code base and provides a one-stop web-based portal for scholars to ingest their archival collections and execute a number of analyses with the click of a mouse. The cloud provides 5 generated derivatives and in-browser visualizations to help researchers begin to explore their web archive collections. Now, the cloud will be sunsetting at the end of June 2021. However, our efforts to support web archival research and lower barriers continue in a second phase as we partner with Archivit to integrate and implement a new cloud interface. Now, I recognize the terms accessibility and usability are influenced by the disciplines we come from, our life experience, and other factors. And as we explore the ways in which Archives Unleashed has incorporated the spirit of access and usability to inform our project aspects, I'd like to offer a general definition as a starting point for our discussion. So by accessibility or access, we're referring to the ability to make use of something, or the capability of being reached, used, understood, or appreciated. And in speaking to usability, we refer to the quality or state of being usable, or the ease of use. And what I hope we can recognize together is that you can't talk about access without also acknowledging the vital role that usability plays. So with this in mind, let's take a look at the application of these concepts within the Archives Unleashed project. First, the codebase is publicly available, free, and open source, which means that anybody can use the toolkit. It is a robust and flexible option when conducting large-scale web archival analysis, and we've integrated widely adopted and stable programming languages as well as best practices that are familiar to those in the digital humanities field. Our tools are transparent and there aren't any black boxes, which means that researchers can see what requests are being made and the output results. We've also integrated feedback and addressed growing areas of interest from our user community. So for example, the inclusion of image analysis as well as the adoption of data frames. We recognize the toolkit is geared to a more advanced user, and the command line can at first glance be quite intimidating. So as such, the cloud helps to increase access and use of web archives in a few different ways. It provides a web-based front end to the toolkit and thereby helps address the hesitancy of using command line. It presents an interface that is intuitive and familiar to users, especially because individuals tend to be more comfortable with click-to-results type task processes. The cloud helps to broaden access to web archives by using the Wasapi Data Transfer API. This ultimately means that individuals already set up with an Archivit account are able to ingest and explore their work files. We've also examined experimental approaches to expand access, use, and interoperability with other platforms such as Jupyter Notebooks. Understanding we have a wide range of technical skills and expertise amongst our users, we've developed additional resources to support, empower, and instill confidence in scholars who are approaching new tools and methods. So we've compiled extensive documentation in a cookbook approach, which provides pre-built scripts that users can plug in to address common analytical tasks. And this takes away a bit of the guesswork when it comes to the question of what can I do, and places more emphasis on exploring possibilities. In consulting with our users, we found that many were stuck on where to begin once they had generated derivatives from the cloud. And as a result, we created learning guides that provided tutorial-based instructions on how to use and explore cloud derivatives with external tools like Gephi and AntConc. And finally, in collaborating with several institutions, we processed web archive collections through the cloud and have made those derivatives available for all to use and explore. And this can be a great starting point for scholars who might not have access to web archive collections, but want to start to learn and engage in this area of research. So ultimately, the aim of developing supporting materials was to help make working with web archives more approachable and encourage researchers to experiment. So a few takeaways as we wrap up. Web archives are critical sources for studying topics post-1990s for scholars in various disciplines. And despite the volume of data captured by institutions across the globe, web archives have largely remained inaccessible and difficult to use. Archives Unleashed has focused on lowering barriers to access and use by contributing to substantial tool developments to the community. And our team has thoughtfully integrated concepts of access and usability throughout the project development cycles. Archives Unleashed has incorporated the spirit of access and usability by providing multiple access points for exploring web archives, ensuring tools and platforms were created as user-friendly as possible, and creating documentation and resources to support training and learning. The value in any tool, method, or system is derived from usability. It doesn't matter if you've created something with all the functionality you could wish for. If somebody can't use it, it has little value. But usability only exists if it is accessible. And so access and usability need to cooperate in partnership. When designing infrastructure for sustainable research platforms, we need to thoughtfully apply concepts of access and usability. So the mentality of, if you build it, they will come, needs to be replaced with a more important question of, if you design it, will it be usable?